Well, here we are again. That was a bust. My name is Gabriel Goldfeder, and I'm happy to be here and happy to welcome you to the MIT Latke Hamentaschen Debate 2015. This is clearly my first time moderating the Latke Hamentaschen Debate, though until now, according to my research, there has not been that much need to moderate. Not a single Latke Hamentaschen debate has ever come to fisticuffs. It will tonight. No one has ever been stopped for going over their allotted time, and no one has ever been ejected for lewd tweets. I did watch some videos of previous year's Latke Hamentaschen debates, and to be honest, I'm fairly certain that every possible joke has been used. Every possible combination of puns based upon the shapes and consistencies of the two foodstuffs in question has been rendered, oftentimes repeated after the 5-year statute of limitations, after which we can assume that no student has heard the joke twice. Or if a certain student has heard it twice, it probably is time for that student to move on. Every possible association, however loose, between this particular amalgam of denatured amylose and pastries containing the seeds of the papaver somniferum, as commonly occur in the foodstuff known as hamentaschen, has been made. I just want to ask, isn't it unbelievably annoying when a non-scientist like myself pretends to speak in scientific terms? Yeah. Get used to it. Anyway, where was I? Every possible association has been rendered. Comparisons of the advantages and disadvantages of triangular versus round objects. Scott Aronson, who is here tonight, tried to convince us that the question of Latke Hamentaschen debate is really a question about quantum physics versus classical physics. There are claims about entropy and enthalpy, claims about efficiency. In fact, University of Chicago chemistry professor Aaron Dinner argued from a standpoint of energy efficiency that Latke is 8 times more fuel efficient than the hamentaschen. And do not think that it is only STEM metaphors that have been exhausted. There was a whole realm of Haas LHDs that happen. Gender theory, Wendy Doniger is in a carefully footnoted paper entitled The Archetypal Hamentash, a Feminist Theology, asserts that hamentashen are a womb equivalent and were worshipped in early matriarchal societies. No. Decorum. That was not moderate. Political science, criminal lawyer and professor Alan Dershowitz, during a debate at Harvard University, accused the Latke of increasing the United States' dependence on oil. Psychology, Princeton University former president or current president Harold Shapiro argued the hamentashen's superiority by pointing out the Epicurean significance of the edible triangle in light of the literary Oedipal triangle. Right, exactly. What is left at that? What is left? One thing I'm confused by the way, is that no one has yet compared the relative villainy of the holidays of which hamentashen and latkes come to be eaten. Haman versus Antiochus, perhaps. Clearly the challenge of Latke Hamentaschen debate, the challenge that our esteemed participants, and by extension the challenge that Hillel itself faces, is the challenge to keep it real. Isn't that the challenge when you repeat any action or ritual many, many times, like, say, praying every day or eating matzah every year? I actually, in a bored moment waiting for my train today, by the way, did you guys see that the woman who runs MBTA resigned? Yeah. She's not here, is she? I figured out that I personally have done the silent prayer at least 21,042 times. I've said Havdalah about 900 times. I've heard 3,800 blasts of the shofar. I have fasted for 475 hours on Yom Kippur. I have eaten about 250 pounds of matzah. I have been to more than 1,000 kiddushes. How do you keep it real? If you're Stu Schmill, how do you look at the zillionth application to MIT without going completely insane? If you're Bob Weinberg, how do you teach 7012 again without completely losing it? Anyway, for what it's worth, I think there are a couple of possible answers, if I could get slightly serious for a moment. If you're looking at the zillionth application or teaching that intro class again, maybe you think that Will Hunting or Oliver Smoot or Tom or Ray Magliozzi will show up. Do you know who that is, by the way? Car Talk. MIT alum, you guys knew that? Yeah. And you want to catch it, or someone will solve the twin prime conjecture. There it is again, right? So you're like, he doesn't even know what the twin prime conjecture is, which I do, by the way. But you're basically right, and I must say, I have been equally as successful as you have in proving it, haven't I? Right. In the Latke and Hamentaschen debate, maybe these esteemed professors and deans show up because they think that they can finally render the perfect and ultimate Latke hamentaschen joke. Or that this year, finally, one side will win. It will finally be proven that one or the other is better for the universe, or that when God divides by 0, she gets a hamentashen, or what have you. But there's another reason, I believe, why we keep at it year after year and don't just stop. It's the same reason you go to the gym 3 times a week, you eat healthy, you trudge through your education day after day, you talk to your friends, and you turn around 20 years later, and you're healthy, and you've got friends, and you're making bank because you actually invented a printer that could make donuts. Donuts have actually not made their way into the Latke hamentaschen debate. What about sufganiyot? Is that next year maybe a 3-sided? Okay. Hold on there. This is your first year, Gabriel. You don't want to presume. All we've got to do in the meantime is keep it real. Try to make sure that each time we do it, we give it that oomph. I can personally guarantee that all repeated Jewish rituals and holidays are oomph-able. The Latke hamentaschen debate, well, whether the Latke hamentaschen debate can be oomphed will be determined by our participants. So here we are again. This year, stuff is going to go down. Shenanigans are sure to ensue. Fisticuffs are likely to happen. And here are your teams. Team Latke is heavily represented by course 7. What does that mean? Has my unscienceness been proven just by asking that? Hazel Sieve actually moderated in 2009. This year she is a presenter. If we follow that trajectory, she will be dressed as a Latke next year. Professor Sieve, of course, does research on the development of the vertebrate embryo using frogs and zebrafish. She has done substantial work on development of the nervous system, including the genetic basis for formation of correct brain structure, and side projects exploring why in the hell anyone's brain would develop in such a way as to favor hamentaschen over latkes. Bob Weinberg was a founding member of Whitehead Institute. He is a pioneer in cancer research, most widely known for his discoveries of the first human oncogene. Yep. A gene that causes normal cells to form tumors, and the first tumor suppressor gene. In his free time, he enjoys water sports and exploring the molecular process by which a tumor that forms in an epithelial tissue layer must recruit stromal cells in order to become a carcinoma. Thank you. Yes. I know what all the conjunctions in that sentence mean. Team Hamentaschen, Dean of Admissions Stu Schmill is the reason you are here. You owe him your life. Enough said. Donna Mashkevitz is a real live Israeli. She has a broad interest in theoretical computer science with a focus on, probabilistically checkable proofs, PCP, pseudo-randomness, coding theory, and algorithms. She actually submitted the random process by which each participant in this debate would be assigned to a specific team. Little did we know there was a pseudo-random process, and she was absolutely sure she would be on the Hamentaschen team, which should tell you something. We have our mascots this evening. What can you say? Jeff Sperling, I mean, thank you. Noted for his legendary performance as Latke. I mean, I'm feeling some dual allegiances here. I'm not really clear. Like, are you or are you not Hamentaschen? Have you converted? Have you grown up? I mean, what's...
Over my time at MIT, having taken classes that educated me about the world, I suddenly realized the error in my ways 2 years ago.
And after you realize that applesauce does not come out of hair easily, I think that probably helped that along. And we've got Tali Portnoy here representing Latke. Here's how it's going to work.
This is my second year.
All right, as Latke, you are showing true allegiance, commitment, loyalty. So we're going to give each contestant, It's not really a contestant. Presenter? Panelist? Ambassador? 7 minutes or so to speak. We will then give teams up to 5 minutes to respond, and then we'll hear some questions from the audience if there are any, if anything is left unclear by the end. At the end we will vote, and it could be that this year someone will win. I would say it has happened, but I'd be lying. And so we were in a little bit of a conundrum because I think in some years you flipped a Latke to figure out who was going to go first, and then it was also recommended to perhaps spin a hamentaschen to figure out who would go first. And we couldn't figure out which of those methods we would use in order to go first. So alphabetical, hamentaschens first. And you can decide amongst yourselves who will be presenting first.
Okay. Hi. My name is Dana Moshkovitz. I'm so happy that MIT finally reopened so we can all find out about the superiority of the Hamentaschen. It's been a long 2 days, no Dean. Okay, so I'm from ECS and CSEL, and I'm going to fight for the Hamentaschen. And there is a bit of family history here. 2 years ago, my husband was here to argue for the Latke. Here he is in a traditional wear. And I'm here to set the record straight. So my first joke got stolen, right? So I'm from Israel, and as every Israeli know, the big queen of the Hanukkah foods is not the latke, it's the sufganiya, it's this donut filled with jam. So I was quite perplexed the first time I heard about this latke hamentaschen debate, but oh well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the geometry of latkes and hamentaschen. So specifically, I want to talk to you about one of the basic fundamental questions in geometry, which is the isoperimetric question. And the question is this: suppose that you fix the volume of a set, and you want to minimize the surface area of the set. How would the set look like? So that's an isoperimetric question. Now, in Euclidean space, The answer is balls, right? If you take the plane and you want to fix the substance but minimize the burnt parts around it, well, you should take the latkes. However, in 1985, Borel found out that if you consider Gaussian space, so Gaussian space is the space where the coordinates are normal random variables. That's a measure on the space. So normal random variables, this normal distribution is a pretty important distribution. This is the distribution that every other distribution converges to. If you consider enough independent trials, this is obviously the right distribution to look at. And in Gaussian space, the answer to the isoperimetric question is the half spaces, or the Hamentaschen. So here you go. This is just the solution of the isoperimetric question. But the geometry of latkes and hamentaschen doesn't stop here. Another very important question in geometry is about tiling. So this is the question of, suppose that you make your hamentashen. You think about if you have your tray, you can put the hamentashen right next to each other, and you're not going to have holes in between. Whereas if you try to have the same trick with latke, you'll soon find out that you have more hole than substance. So latkes are not good. And we have the hamentashen. So I'm a mathematician, right? You can tell I look just like those guys. And from a mathematician's point of view, the debate is now settled, right? Geometry is in favor of the hamentashen. You get more goodness for the same space. You should definitely go with hamentashen. However, this event is going to give us an opportunity to be experimentalists. We're not going to stick just with theory, and we're going to find out what happens to a latke when it's left out in room temperature. So we're going to have two axes, the time in room temperature measured in hours, and the awesomeness of the latke. And even the best latke undergoes a certain phase transition when left outside, as we will all get to experience. Whereas the hamentashen just remains constantly great. So that's my spiel. Thank you so much.
Well, I've been around here a long time, and about 25 years ago, I did my first Hamentaschen Latke debate. How old is this tradition now at Hillel? At least that old. And then about 10 years ago, I did it again. This is my third Hamentaschen Latke debate. And now here I'm the third time, and each time I've done this, whether I'm on the Hamentaschen or the Latke side, I have been dumbfounded how anyone else would have the temerity, the chutzpah, is that how you pronounce it? Oh, chutzpah. Not chutzpah. She says chutzpah, all right, whatever. To embrace the other point of view, it just never made any sense to me. And in a debate like this, you always have to question the other side, throwing sand in your face by citing various kinds of facts. In a debate like this, you should never contaminate your argument with facts. And in a debate like this, the best way to win the debate is not to deal with the substance of the issue, but really to question the motives of the people on the other side. Why are they really doing this? What's the ulterior motive? Why did they really want to volunteer for this, and why did they choose that particular side of the argument? And keep in mind the old saw, you probably know this, that the reason why academic disputes like this one are so bitter and nasty is that the stakes are so low. So keep that in mind. So here we see the latke, and one can hardly think any better of that than Dali here is really doing an excellent job. Do we notice the manna from heaven, the sour cream? Can't do any better than that. And here, by contrast, are the other guys. And you'd think from an image like that quantity would equal quality, but it won't work that way. Not tonight, at least. So what is it about the hamentaschen that one would like to discredit, independent of the motives of the people on the other side? Well, this is in the end a conspiracy to lull us into complacency, because we have to remember the traditional filling for hamentaschen. And what is the traditional filling? Not the corrupt, Americanized apricots or prunes. What should hamentaschen really be filled with? 7012. Poppy seeds, exactly right. And poppy seeds sound great. Poppy seeds sound absolutely fabulous, but let's get into the argument a little more deeply. Why do they want us to engage in consuming large amounts of poppy seeds? Now, remember, in a debate like this, it's not what the other side said, it's what you imagine the other side said. And as you may or may not know, old Jewish women in the old country had very high rates of glaucoma. Why did they have high rates of glaucoma? You can see it right up there in the lower right of the screen. Because they consumed large amounts of poppy seeds. And here you can see it all. And you can begin to see the outlines of the conspiracy, because what are the most addictive sedative drugs made from? Poppy seeds. We know that. You don't have to be in Afghanistan to know that. Poppy seeds. Heroin. Where does heroin come from? Where does glaucoma come from? You can even see in the lower right what's said there, that Jews have very high rates of glaucoma and other eye diseases, and indubitably because of... Is the argument made or what, Tully? I mean, am I right or what? I'll be honest with you. Actually, now that I think of it, I have a colleague who, when he gets up and gives a lecture, every third sentence he starts it with, "I'll be honest with you." And then you start scratching your head and wondering what he's thinking and meaning when he utters the other two sentences. I'll be honest with you. Okay, so poppy seeds are, by the way, the source of what's called the poppy seed defense in drug trials. The defendant claims not that he or she had recently used heroin, but that they had recently had a hamentaschen. It's used medicinally. Mark Twain had something to say here, by the way. He had something to say about everything. And if this doesn't convince you, nothing will. Whatever a man's age, he can reduce it several years by putting a bright-colored flower, poppy, in his buttonhole. And if that isn't relevant to tonight's argument, nothing is. Let's get now right to the core of the argument. Finally, I've been kind of dealing with the minor issues, but let's talk a little bit about Purim between us. Purim has been called the Jewish Halloween. The existence of the historicity of Purim is a matter of grave doubt. whether there ever was Esther, and whether there ever was Mordecai, we may never know. But we do know that during the Babylonian exile, the Babylonians worshipped the female god of fertility, Ishtar, and the male god of war, Marduk. Sounds familiar, eh? And even here, you can begin to question the shape of the hamentaschen, because the current dogma is that it comes from the three-cornered hat. But three-cornered hats were not even around when Jews started baking hamentaschen 1,000, 2,000 years ago. Here, there's actually the illusion that the hamentaschen reflects the female parts. Well, what else do I have to say? I mean, it's in Latin you say quod erat demonstrandum. The case has been made. It's made inescapably. And here we're reverting to really Babylonian mythology. And I'm sorry that you're put in defense of that. And I haven't even begun to question your motives for embracing that argument, but I'm sure they'll come out shortly. Dean Schmill, what do you have to say for yourself now, after that?
All right. So, Gabriel, where are you? Thank you for being our host and for inviting me. I think I want you to notice that when you introduced me, I was the only one you didn't actually have to use a big word in the introduction, so I appreciate that. All right. But I very much love debates. As Dean of Admissions, I'm very familiar with debates. We debate about applicants all the time. And I take as my example Abraham Lincoln, whose cabinet once was in a debate, and they unanimously outvoted him. And he closed the meeting by saying, 7 nays and 1 aye, the ayes have it. And like Honest Abe, as the Dean of Admissions, I always have the last word. And so, in this debate, it is the hamentaschen that has it. And the reason I know this is because this debate has already happened inside the hallowed hall of the admissions office, where mistakes are never made. And I think you would agree with that. And if you don't, come and see me afterwards. But we did have this debate earlier because, as it happens, this year both the Latke and the hamentaschen applied to MIT. So I happen to have their applications. I'm going to share a little bit with you. And I think by the end you will agree with me that the hamentaschen is the superior food and best suited for MIT. All right, so first we're going to look at the Latke. Okay. So the Latke is well-rounded and soft. The Latke needs utensils to eat, or it makes a mess. I mean, how would you like to room with a Latke? You know, grease, potatoes, sour cream, applesauce, all over the place. So here's an excerpt from the Latke's essay. Quote, "Sigh, I am fried and burned out, and I'm not even at MIT yet. And I'm also very anxious that if I don't get eaten quickly, I'll get cold and then no one will want me. Aww. And finally, the last straw would have to be how dependent the latke is. I'm not sure the latke really is ready for college. It can't go anywhere without its parents. All right. So now for the hamentaschen. All right. And this a really great application that the hamentaschen put in. Yes, you get to stay. So as one recommender put it, this is one smart cookie. The hamentaschen is a real person. Thank you. Thank you. Now, we don't really consider this in the admissions process, but the hamentaschen has a very long lineage at MIT. Yes, our founder, William Barton Rogers, was a very big fan. He loved a good nosh, and there was nothing like a hamentaschen. Now, while these cookies are good, they are a bit weird. But at the center is a real sweetness. Now, another recommender commented on how dependable the hamentaschen is, saying the hamentaschen is very regular, and in fact, it helps promote regularity in others. Excuse me. All right. The hamentashen's essay was very well done, making its point very, very clear. And the hamentaschen really is great for MIT. I mean, the triangle, very stable. Even a freshman biology exam would not throw it off balance. And as well, look at its ingredients. Fruit is much better for you, promoting wellness for students all around it. Yeah, well, yes, hey. It's all about happiness and well-being. And of course, while the latke is the same food over and over, there are so many kinds of hamentaschen. Everyone will benefit from the learning that is a result of such diversity. The hamentaschen, all right, not all of them are going to be funny, that's all. The hamentaschen gets along well with others. For example, you can dunk a hamentaschen in milk, and it can be quite heavenly. Have you never done this? Oh my, all right. Well, if you haven't, you should try it, but imagine doing that with a latke. That would be bad. Okay. So, are you kidding? We think about every applicant and how well they would go with milk. You know, you got to have some criteria. All right. So last piece here is about public service, because the hamentaschen is really a public servant. Listen to this excerpt that I have here from a recommendation letter written by Hansel. Quote, "Our parents told us that we were going to a big Purim party in the woods. Thankfully, Gretel and I took along some hamentaschen that we had, which proved useful. We left a trail of hamentaschen crumbs to help us find our way home. It's true, the birds ate the crumbs and we got lost anyway, but our story had a happy ending, and so should the hamentashen's application to MIT. So with a letter like that and the rest, the admissions committee did not take long to make its decision. The Hamentaschen admitted to MIT, and the poor Latke goes down. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Schmill. That was very, very convincing. I'm just curious, sentiment so far, if you had to vote, is there a sense of how you would vote right now? Who would be vote? I just need to ask, does it change anything to know that Dean Schmill used a few of those jokes last time? No. Those jokes last. They've got shelf life. Okay. Interesting. Professor, when you're ready.
Well, this is really such a pleasure. You know, I just want to say that a number of people have asked me about not my moderating experience here a few years ago, but the year before, when I spoke for the Hamentaschen. I say that, you know, I say that with time comes knowledge, with age, maturity. Can I come back now? I think it's safe. It's safe. Okay, it's safe. I am now mature. At least for this year. I want to, you know, but I'm non-partisan. I really am not. I'm just I want to tell you about tissue engineering because this is Biology Corner. This is Biology Corner. Yay! Huh? And you know, we are empowered by the latkes. So I'm going to actually do 4 things you can see, all right? You can see this attractive 4 things. I'm going to talk about tissue engineering. I'm going to talk about a latke. What's a latke? And then I want to remind you of something I bet you all know, which is the half-latke paradox. And then we'll move on to some implications. So let's talk about tissue engineering for a moment. You know, what is tissue engineering? Who's a tissue engineer? Well, you know, tissue engineering is about building something useful with cells, okay? So here, you know, you have your cells, you mix them together with a polymer, you sprinkle stuff on, and out pops something useful, okay? And you can implant it in someone, and you know, you're done, okay? Tissue engineering, it's awesome. If you haven't done it, you know, it's one of the great extensions of 7012 or 7013. Woo! But you know, there are limitations. Okay, number one, you need these things called stem cells. Stem cells. Stem cells. Stem cells. Stems.
How do you spell it?
PHTU. Cells, okay? All right, stem cells. PHTU cells. Stem cells do 2 things. They can make more of themselves, that's pretty awesome, but they can make lots of other things. You need them. No stem cells, no tissue engineering. But you know, cells are kind of like MIT students. They're really hard to control. So, you know, the challenge really is, how do you do it? How do you control them? Okay, so let's move on from biology to the latke. And I want to pose a question to you. What is a latke? So what is a latke? You know, no, it's not actually food. You know, a latke is actually a complex organ. And I'm going to show you in a moment that it has multiple cell types. It's got structure that's deeply understood. You can do experimental manipulations ex vivo, outside the body. There is, of course, no waste problem with Latke, and I will discuss with you whether the Latke is a model for human tissue engineering and biology. Yes. Okay. All right, so the latke actually contains 8 cell types. Here they are. You've got your yellow potato cells, your russet potato cells, your egg yolk cells, egg white cells, salt cells, pepper cells, your crispy outer cells, and your onion cells. Okay, done. Done. Okay, you didn't know that. When you ate your latke, you didn't know that. So now I'm going to show you a histological section of the latke. Okay. It's the latke, right? Accurate histology, reconstructed, as Professor Weinberg well knows, in the new light sheet microscope. So, brilliant, brilliant, isn't it brilliant? This is your latke histology. You got your crispy cells, you got your onion cells, you've got cords, that means kind of long things, of different potato cells, you got your circulating salt and pepper cells, okay? This is your functional latke. Think about it when you eat one next time. Now,
This is precedent making.
Precedent, paradigm shifting. Okay, now I just, parenthetically, as I said, I'm nonpartisan, but parenthetically, I want to show you, and actually Dean Schmiel really actually confirmed this a few moments ago, a section through the hamentash. Gives crumbs, Hansel, yeah, crumbs, there. All right, enough. So let's move on. Enough bad-mouthing. I like the science to speak for itself. Let us move on now to the half-latke paradox that you may know. So here's the thing, actually. Let's go back so you're not diverted by the science there. You know, right? The thing about latkes, you know that you never run out, right? The dish is always coming out of the kitchen, and it is always full of latkes, and they are steaming, and they are delicious, and they never run out. This is because of the half-latke paradox, as Professor Weinberg will confirm. It's brilliant. So, all right, so now I know it's late. I actually haven't had dinner. This is the 3rd biology lecture I've given today, but it's okay. All right. Hey, it's fine. We can do it. So the half-latke paradox, folks, we are going to look at a new study in a really top journal, and we're going to look at some of the figures, all right? So I'm going to walk you through the science, and this is the half-latke paradox in science. All right, so here's a half-latke. Yeah? Here is a half-latke with oil. Watch what happens when we add another signal. Heat as well as oil. Whoa! Whoa! This, folks, is why you never run out of latkes, the half-latke paradox. What is the science behind the half-latke paradox? As Professor Weinberg knows well, and my colleagues over here probably don't. One of the things, although they have my deep respect and my disagreement, but that's beside the point. Okay, we need to focus here. Okay, focus on this study. The thing that we want to address here is how much of a latke is needed for latke regeneration. Is it the whole half latke, if you know what I mean, or is it less than that? All right, so this part of the study took some of those latke cells, either the whole half latke or a lower limit, 10 to the minus 6 cells, to give a good range of cell numbers, or 10 cells. This is rigor. This is really important. It's rigorous science. And those amounts of latke were then put in heat and oil, the signals, okay? Watch the data. half a latke in heat and oil, half latke paradox, whole latke, regenerated. 10 to the minus 6 cells input, not enough, a lower limit. Yeah, with me? Okay, rigorous, this is rigorous. 10 cells, whoa, 10 cells, okay. This, of course, raises the question of which cells, which 10 cells, huh? Which 10 cells regenerate the latke? You remember there were 8 cell types in the latke. It could be one of those cell types, or there could be combinatorics there. Yes, there could be some complicated combinatorics. So the next experiment I'll tell you about tested the hypothesis that it was just one cell type, just to start, somewhere simple, okay? So here it is, a complex figure, all right? So they're going to identify the latke stem cells that can regenerate the latke. Okay, so we put the yellow, and we're going to take a good number, 10 to the 6th, okay, 1 million cells, one type. We're going to give them the signals, heat, oil, and see what happens. Here's what happens, okay. This is biology, folks. This is the power of biology, and as you will see, the power of the latke. Yellow potato, russet potato, salt, pepper cells, egg yolk cells, disappointing. Egg white cells, the crispy outer cells, I bet, huh? Who said it's the onion? Whoa, you're smart. You're taking 7013? Oh. It's the onion! Yes! This is so exciting. Isn't this exciting? Do you feel it? Yes? The power of the latke. The power of the latke. Okay, folks. So here's the summary. Stem cells, heat and oil, complex organ, latke. Okay, you get it. Fantastic. This is top-notch science. What are the implications? All right. The implications are actually in my bag down there, and I'm going to show you, and I wouldn't be showing this to you if we didn't have the patent and the license and so on. So I'll just show you what came out of this is the pocket tissue engineer. A small device, actually Professor Weinberg has several of these, small device. You pop in your cells, you close it up, and you open it, and there you have your latkes, you have your heart, you have your liver, you have your kidney, done. Done. We fixed Professor Weinberg, we can fix you, you can fix yourself. Okay, so, I didn't have to do anything except, tell you, just remind you about the crumbs, yeah. The latke, a revolution in tissue engineering. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those stirring words. So we're going to give you about 30 seconds to confer, and then a couple minutes to present your rebuttal. I'm sure you, with that last presentation of the little hearts popping out of the cell generator, you're hungry. And we have latkes for you and hamentaschen, not surprisingly enough. So after we wrap up here, you're invited outside for some food. We do ask you to have, if you could limit yourself to 4.15 latkes. I was trying to do 500 divided by 115. What do you think? Too late. My math stands. Okay, so if you could limit yourself to that much, please do so. And I think we're ready now for our rebuttal.
All right. Thank you very much. And I would like to extend a deep and sincere appreciation for our fellow debaters who did a wonderful job. Can we give them a hand? Because I thought they did a terrific job in proving the superiority of the hamentaschen. I mean, of course, Professor Weinberg made the case all the way through.
This is called grudging respect.
And Professor Siv as well talked a lot about the virtues of the hamentaschen over the latke, if you remember. She had talked about that. And, but I want to say a couple of things. First of all, the hamentaschen has a real substance to it, clearly, that was well pointed out by our debaters. And there was one thing that I think that you had mentioned, Hazel, that there's no waste problem with a latke. I don't know if you've ever eaten a latke, but a waste problem. Anyway, okay, so let's see. The other thing is I understand how an onion cell can regenerate into an entire latke, right? Now I know, I think the only thing that you thought that was not great about the original hamentaschen was the fact that it might cause glaucoma and give you eye problems. Now if you... Pagan symbol, that was another, okay, that's fine. Was that a negative or, okay. But problem with the eyes. Now, of course, I don't know if anybody here has ever cut into an onion and what that does to your eyes. Makes me want to cry. Such a sad food. This latke. Latke? Latke? I heard several different pronunciations. Not sure which one they're using. That's fishy. I don't know. Can't quite get the story straight. And of course, you know that we did talk about, I think in one of these pictures we saw a latke, a lot of oil, and there was a dollop of sour cream. And I know Hazel mentioned something about the pocket tissue there's a heart in there somewhere, a hardened heart, latke with the oil and the sour cream, very, very much hardening of the heart and the arteries. Now there are things, of course, that go on the latke, like those unhealthful foods, but the hamentaschen. So what goes on a hamentaschen? Fruit, well, sugar, which is great. Who's gonna argue with sugar, right? Not even our latke is gonna argue with sugar. But also, don't you fill it with fruit and jam? Yeah. I think with that, we rest our case.
Well, I like the way that Dean Schmiel compares the temporary smarting from cutting onions to the lifelong degeneration of the eye that comes from eating poppy seeds. I like the way he compares the virtue of eating sugar to the lifelong virtue of being permanently addicted to the morphine that's present in poppy seeds. We remember on Hanukkah that the one cell created a whole latke, and that's the origin of the Nes Gadol Haya Sham. Right there. Right there. So the next time you use a dreidel, think about that. It was a large victory, a large miracle that was there. Tali, what are you going to do? Do you have any... Who do you think is more convinced of the rectitude of their side? Oh. Oh. Poor loser. Give it. Doorschlag. No.
I might need that. Wow. 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 The last word, Tali. Wow. Whoa. We're all in shock right now. Okay, so I think everyone's had their say. I think it's. I'm trying to get to the vote, but I'm just so distracted by you, Talia, right now. It's so overwhelming. Just on this alone, I think that this is that's a point for. Oh, yeah. Not until the voting. No, keep it on the face until after the voting. Okay, so representing. I'm sorry, I did not mean anything. I mean Jeff started it, right? So that was. Let's just hear, kind of coming out of this whole experience, who really feels that Hamentaschen has won this debate tonight, and who feels that Latke has won the debate tonight. Yeah. It's funny because my human ear is telling me that the Latkes won, but my decibel meter that I have on my iPhone is telling me that it was actually the same amount of cheering. We might have to just continue another year in order to be able to come back and do this. So I just want to thank our panelists this evening. Dean Schmill, you did a fantastic job. Next time, new jokes. Yeah. Okay. I had new jokes. And a trophy for your participation. Donna, thank you so much for participating this year. Bob Weinberg, thank you so much. We learned a lot about opium. That's true. That's true. And Professor Siv, thank you so much for participating. We learned so much. We're all deeply inspired. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Just do I have any more announcements I need to make? Whoa, hold on.
There are two other very important people that we need to thank for their help in creating this evening. One is Rabbi Goldfeder, so thank you very much for moderating. I know you'll enjoy that for many years to come. And the other is our student organizer, Max Havenstock. If Max would come up here. Now, Max will tell you some other time how excellent it was to plan this event. If you would like to plan this event in the future, you could raise your hand right now. I'll just make a little note. Ariel's into it. Haley's into it. Cool. Anybody else? All right. Well, we're definitely going to have one of these next year. Okay. So we just, again, want to thank you all for coming out. We know that you had a lot of snow days, and I'm sure you have tons of work to catch up on. But please enjoy yourselves with the food in the lobby.